You know that one person who's an asshole all the time, yet for some odd reason you're friends with them? No? Yeah, me either, because those people in real life are pretty awful. But in fiction, the quote-unquote jerkass can be funny, comedic, or even a humbling character to play in your tabletop role-playing game, if done well. So today I'm going to be discussing why you should play the jerky or jerkass character in your next tabletop role-playing game. So first off, what is the jerk-ass trope? Well, these characters are obnoxious, mean, and definitely asshole. From the TV tropes definition, for these characters it's a shocker that anyone is even willing to interact with anyone or any person because of how much of a butthead they are. These characters can come in so many different ways though. They can be polite, intelligent, charming, or handsome. These characters can also give off an air of snobby, sneering, and self-centered prickery that makes them such a nasty little punk that you wonder why people even deal with them. Of course, they can also be sleazy, crass, or otherwise just downright awful. But they are usually never the villain, unless you're playing an evil campaign or a game where you are the villains. In that case, then, well, you're an exception to the rules. These characters can just be obnoxious, mean, or generally unpleasant to be around, and they can come in all shapes, forms, sizes, races, classes, and ethnicities. However, what are some examples in fiction? There's BlazBlue's Jin Kisaragi, who is major dickhead energy, the most snobbiest character you could think of, and more than likely 100% bona fide asshole. There's also Cloudstrife from the original Final Fantasy VII. In the beginning, he's this angsty teenage character, and he's well known for being, well, a jerk ass in the beginning of Final Fantasy VII. Of course, in the remake, he's way different, but just know that in the original, he was kind of awful. There's also Larxene from Kingdom Hearts, who is a bona fide asshole in many of the games, definitely. There's also in the book Catcher in the Rye, Holden Caulfield, who is an angsty teenager who's dealing with a lot of different emotions while he's running through New York City and generally is an unpleasant teenager to work and hang out with. There's also Monokuma from Danganronpan, which, yeah, need I say more? There's also in real life Gordon Ramsay in his show Hell's Kitchen. Gordon Ramsay, while he definitely plays up his jerk-ass personality, he is a fine example of that. And finally, for all of the furries who are watching this, there's Discord the God of Chaos from My Little Pony. And those are some of the few examples. Are there any examples that I might have missed? Let me know down below in the comment section. And I know that I've given a couple of examples of characters, but I'm sure many of you might be wondering, these characters are going to be difficult to play as. Their combative nature in game can be hard to handle. If players or their GM do not handle these characters in a way that is conducive to playing together, then it can be a big letdown. Why? Well, firstly, it begs the question is, why is this character with the rest of the team if they're such an asshole to everyone? No one wants to play with an antagonistic character who has no motivation to spend any time with the other players. That's not conducive for fun. Also, their antagonistic nature can be seen as against the fun of the game. And for new players, this means very confrontational because many players who are new might not be able to tell the difference between in-character play and out-of-character play. And of course, players, new and old, can also turn this trope into the quote-unquote, "this is what my character would do," and try to excuse what is otherwise crappy behavior in-game. And finally, these characters can be super stagnant. What is their personality or traits beyond being an asshat to everyone they meet? These combative characters can disrupt the cohesiveness of the game and otherwise create what it should be an awesome character concept into a stagnant, boring, and quite frankly rude and obnoxious player habit. I believe then, to understand why they're combative and difficult to work with, we need to understand why they are a fun trope to play. Out of many of the other tropes I've covered, and the many of the other tropes that we'll talk about, this character can benefit the most from character growth. Because many jerk-ass characters in media have moments where their personality shifts gradually. So, for the players and GM, how and what ways do you want your character to change? And why? What will drive your character to change their personality? Is it love, rivalry, passion, and newfound goals? Maybe the BBEG threatens someone they love. Is it a magical spell? Is it a newfound technology in your world and lore? What is driving the be so mean? Why did they put up walls to keep themselves safe? Players and GMs, Once you know what is making them such a jerk, it's important to also make sure that this character is still competent. That means while they can be mean, they can and should work with the rest of the team. They can be skilled at whatever skills, attributes, or abilities that your TTRPG might have. For instance, you're playing a mean and stubborn dwarf wizard in your fantasy RPG. They aren't very friendly and only barely get along with the rest of their crew. The reason for that is because the last time they got close to someone was their husband, and unfortunately their husband was killed by adventurers years ago. For players, show that. As you adventure with your current team, maybe befriend a specific member of the team or a specific NPC. You grow attached. You show favoritism and put up a facade of being an asshole in certain narrative decisions. And for GMs, implement that. Give the character choices that twist their jerky personality. Maybe the player has to fight their inner demons personified as a ghost. Maybe they're fighting a foil, someone who's kind-hearted, warm, and a goody two-shoe. Maybe because of their off-putting personality, sometimes when they roll to persuade or intimidate someone, it's a disadvantage, especially if they do not have a good relationship with this person. These characters can and certainly will be antagonistic, but they cannot be infallible. And GMs, the biggest point I need to make is you need to separate character actions versus player actions. These characters are jerks, but hopefully your players aren't. So I really recommend that you have a session 0 and talk to them about your character concept as well as rules and regulations, especially if you're playing a character who is very rude and disrespectful. You never want to have your character actions misconstrued to be your player actions, because that could lead into animosity amongst the table and ultimately maybe your game ending forever. So GMs, be sure to talk about these character concepts, especially if a player brings it up. Also, it would help greatly to make sure that these characters have people interest in other personality traits besides just being mean. Yes, obviously it's important to be mean, but GMs, talk to your players about what kind of personality traits they have outside of being, well, a asshat. Doing this can help flesh out the world and help you build encounters related to them being an asshole. So playing the jerk or asshole character means balancing out your jerk personality. You are allowed and should be a jerk, that's part of your charm, but also contribute to supporting the team, as well as, if you want, look to changing your personality and your traits over time and growing your character beyond just simply them being an asshole. Seeing that your character changes over the course of your one-shot or campaign is part of the joy of playing the jerk-ass character. So, I recommend that if you want to play the jerk-ass character, go right ahead. Just be sure to tell your GM and other players up front, and also to communicate that you are not an asshole. Unless you are, then, well, that's an entirely different story. Anyhow, if you do have any thoughts about the jerk-ass character, let me know down below in the comments section, and feel free to like and subscribe if this content suits you well. But you want to know what's even better? What if you wanted to play a proud elite character? Well, I think the next step to playing a jerk-ass character is to playing a proud elite. And I have a video about how to play that character trope down below in the description box and as well over here in the video. And as always, I'm your average everyday queer host, Blurry Disposition, and hope you all have an awesome day. Ciao!